That's the thing about life. It can be unpredictable, but your dreams need not be. How far would you go to make your dreams come true? How close are you to reaching those goals set by you? While others focus on a new normal, you focus on a new beginning. Look around for what inspires you. Build your narrative. After all, it's your story to tell. Take a chance. Take a leap. Begin your study abroad journey with us.
Looking for the right course for you? Welcome to AECC Global's Course Search, your one-stop platform for all your international education needs. Browse through millions of free, valuable study abroad resources to pursue your international study dream. To begin your search, type in your preferred course in the search bar. Filter by sub-course category, level of study, destination preference, tuition fees, duration, and post-study work visa. With a destination drop-down, you can search for the preferred destinations of your choice. You can also filter down courses by top-ranked universities in your preferred destination and their rankings. Browse through various career choices, and you can also browse through free student resources like articles on tips to study abroad, the latest news, etc. We are here to support you with every step of your study abroad journey. To explore your course options, visit search.aeccglobal.com.
Oke, Happy New Year dan selamat siang teman-teman AECC Global. Untuk mulai tahun ini, I would very much like to welcome all of you to our very first Masterclass for Bachelor of Arts in Politics dan juga Bachelor of Arts in Politics and International Relations session pada hari ini dari Department of Government at University of Essex. Nama saya Lani dari AECC Global yang akan jadi host kita pada siang hari ini. Sedikit mengenai University, the faculty at University of Essex. Mungkin nanti Abel akan explore lebih jauh lagi. Ranking ke-7 in the UK untuk Politics and International Studies di QS World University Rankings by Subject di 2021. Juga ranking ke-13 untuk Politics by the Times and Sunday Times Good University Guide di tahun 2021. Kemudian University of Essex juga has the only Regius Professor in Political Science in the UK, an honor conferred by the Queen. Wow, keren ya. Kemudian our guest of honors hari ini adalah Dr. Akita Kamatsuo. Sedikit mengenai Dr. Aki, beliau adalah seorang postdoctoral fellow in Institute for Analytics and Data Sciences di University of Essex. Sebelum joining Institute for Analytics and Data Science, he was a research fellow in data science in Department of Methodology at the London School of Economics and Political Science. He earned his PhD in Political Science at Rice University di tahun 2012, dan his research interests lie in the data science and politics. In particular, he is interested in the statistical methodology for scaling survey responses and legislative behavior and natural language processing of political text. Misalnya di social media text, open-ended survey answers, and parliamentary speeches. Hari ini kita akan experience being a student melalui masterclass yang akan dideliver oleh Dr. Akitaka. Seperti misalnya kita student belajar di Bachelor of Arts in Politics atau Bachelor of Arts in Politics and International Relation di University of Essex, seperti inilah kelas-kelas yang akan kita hadiri, salah satu contohnya. Oke, Dr. Aki juga akan sedikit berbicara mengenai career opportunities untuk bachelor ini, dan juga career support apa yang akan diberikan oleh Department of Government at University of Essex. Along with Dr. Aki, also attend a representative dari University of Essex, Christabel, who is the Regional Development Manager dari International Office at University of Essex. Christabel sendiri based in Jakarta, dan juga kita ada Angelina Sunarko dari Kaplan yang akan nanti membantu untuk menjawab pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang Anda miliki. Abel akan take a few minutes untuk introduce mengenai University of Essex, dan karena session ini very interactive, tentunya jangan lupa gunakan opportunity untuk pertanyaan question and answer. Anda boleh chat your question and answer in the Q&A box pada question and answer session after the master class ini, after the lecture class ini. Okay, so without further ado, I will pass on the screen now to Christabel to introduce a little bit about herself and also University of Essex. Silakan Christabel.
Thank you, Bulani. Halo semuanya, thank you so much for joining us today. Nama saya Christabel, saya representatif dari University of Essex, seperti yang sudah di-introduce juga oleh Miss Lani di sini ya. Jadi, I have about 5 minutes, I think, to do introduction, untuk supaya kalian lebih jelas juga untuk tahu universitinya seperti apa sih, dan kita lokasinya di mana, seperti kayak gitu. Okay, to start, I will share my screen. Saya akan tunjukkan video langsung untuk kampusnya kita. We have 3 different campuses, cuman hari ini saya akan fokus ke satu kampus kita, which is Colchester, karena di situ adalah lokasi untuk government department kita yang hari ini kita memang fokusin ya. So, okay, overall untuk ranking tadi sudah disampaikan juga oleh Miss Lani di sini. We have 3 different campuses, Colchester, South End, and Loughton. Tapi don't worry about it, about 90% of our courses itu biasanya di Colchester. Yang again, habis ini nanti saya akan tunjukkan seperti apa campus tour dan segala macam. Overall ranking kita ada di top 30 in the complete university guide. Dan di tahun 2018 kita juga mendapatkan winner of the University of the Year. Tahun-tahun setelah itu mungkin kita memang belum menjadi winner lagi, cuman kita masih mendapatkan finalis, which is ya maksudnya paling nggak kita masih mendapatkan 5 besar lah gitu ya. Nah, untuk salah satu course yang memang kita high rank dan juga popular, bahkan anak Indonesia biasanya ke Essex itu memilih subjek ini, itu di Politics and International Studies, Politics International Relations, yang berada di bawah Department of Government-nya kita. Jadi overall kita ada yang namanya social science, itu banyak tentang research tentang social science, kita juga di top 5 in the UK for that. Oke, ini saya langsung aja tunjukkan kampus kita seperti apa. Let me just share my sound. Okay, I have.
Hi everyone, my name is Asha and welcome to the Colchester campus tour. We're starting off firstly here by the lakes. It is the nicest place on campus and it's a great way to study and have a barbecue and chill with your friends. The campus is made up of 5 interlinking squares and we're surrounded by all this incredible parkland, so let's get going. This is the Silbrad Student Center. Let's go inside and check it out. Here you'll be able to come for student information, support, the finance desk, the IT desk, and some study spaces. And now we're in the Creative Studios, which is located at the back of the Silbrad Center. Here's where you come for everything student media. Right next to the Silbrad Center, you'll be able to find the Lakeside Theatre Cafe. Let's go inside. And now let's head down to the Lakeside Theatre. Welcome to the Albert Sloman Library. Here you'll find 6 floors of books, archives, and one of the only 4 paternoster lifts in the UK. So this is our Ivory Crew Lecture Hall. This is where you're going to be coming for your graduation ceremony once you finish your degree. So opposite Ivory Crew, we've got Waterstone. So if you're like books like me, you'll be in there all the time. Next door is Art Exchange, our art gallery, which shows some really cool exhibitions. Let's head on to Square 4. Here you'll be able to come to one of our 2 stores to go and grab some bits and bobs. We've got the post office, and there's a lot of places to eat around Square 4, so go and check that out, my favorite stop bar. And this is Square 3. Here you'll find the SE reception, great coffee in the kitchen, lots of places to eat, and below us is the nightclub Sub-Zero. So this is the Lecture Theatre Building, also known as the LTB. You'll have quite a few lectures in here, and it's also the home to the SE Zone Cinema. And this is our sports arena. Next door, we have a sports hall with a gym and a climbing wall. And behind these, you'll find our sports pitches and acres of green space. As you can see, we've got some interesting looking architecture all over campus. For example, our carbon neutral business school, our Wivenhoe House Hotel, and the STEM Center. And that's the end of our tour now. Thank you so much for following me around campus, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Oke, jadi tadi itu kampus kita yang again tadi saya sudah jelaskan. Kalau mungkin yang baru hadir, we have 3 different campuses. Yang pertama tadi ada di Colchester, Southend, and Lawton. Nanti kalau misal at the end of the sessions kita masih ada waktu, I can always show you again how the campus looks like. Dan hari ini kita akan fokus hanya di Colchester karena Department of Government kita itu located in Colchester. Colchester sendiri, kalau kalian pastinya mungkin belum pernah ke UK, cuma pasti pernah dengar dong ya untuk kota London gitu ya. So from London all the way to Colchester, you take a direct train, it will take you less than 1 hour. Biasanya sekitar 45 menit sampai 55 menit, depending on the train juga. Itu memang bukan di London, cuma in terms of location itu aman sekali, dan untuk living cost itu juga sangat-sangat terjangkau. Oke, saya nggak akan continue di bagian saya karena ini kayaknya sudah cukup jelas untuk lokasi dan juga ranking kita, positioningnya Essex, siapa sih kita seperti itu. Nah, saya akan langsung kasih waktunya ke Dr. Aki. Saya akan stop sharing. So as mentioned by Miss Lani just now, so hari ini kita akan sama-sama kayak menghadiri kelas ya. Kita akan menghadiri taster class. Jadi kalian akan merasakan how if you become a students at Essex, pelajarannya seperti apa sih. Hari ini Dr. Aki akan membawakan lebih ke arah data di government department itu seperti apa, begitu. Oke, Dr. Aki, I pass the time to you.
All right, now I share the screen. I hope everyone can see that. Did I unmute myself? No, yeah, I did. So yeah, so now I'm gonna start my talk. I'm Aki Matsuo. I'm a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Government and also doing data science stuff at the Institute for Data Analytics and Data Science at the University of Essex. Today, what I'm going to talk about is basically like my research. And through my research talk, I would like to introduce like what's the strength of my department. Like it seems that it's already talked that like our department is ranked very high in some rankings, especially in research one. And my talk is kind of related to that strength. So through that, I hope you will get some idea of what we are doing at the University of Essex. So let's get started. So what we do at the University of Essex is so it's kind of repetition, but we are ranked #1 in the research excellency framework in the previous round. New result is coming soon, but previous one we did really well. And the reason why we are doing really well in the research is because we are, like one of the reasons actually, it's we are very strong at the quantitative methodology. The meaning of that is doing some sort of like a statistical data analysis using some sort of data. When we think about the data, like data tend to be some sort of like some numerical thing, like numbers, and do some analysis for these numbers, like government statistics or housing price or income or that kind of like numerical data. However, these days, anything can be a sort of converted to a sort of data. And one of the things you can use as a data in the research is text. Or other stuff are like, you can use the sort of networks as a data. Or you can use some sort of pictures or videos that can be also a data. And all of them can be analyzed through the quantitative methodology. And we are specialized in that kind of quantitative methodology. So there are a lot of different types of data, and my talk is about one of them. So the research I'm going to talk about today is the ideas for macroeconomic surveillance. It's kind of very sort of dry and sort of not sound like interesting, but this I chose, like I do a lot of things in my research, but I chose specifically this one because I thought it's like relevant to you guys because it's about IMF and AMRO. I'm going to talk about IMF and AMRO a bit later in the later slides, but it's quite relevant for Indonesian people as I can't believe that you were born after 2000s, but in 1990s, IMF had a massive impact in the Indonesian society. And because of that, this AMRO thing is created in 2010. And what we would like to do in this research is the sort of analyzing the dynamics of these two organizations through the analysis of ideas, or what kind of like economic ideas they are using when they talk about the country's economies. So that's what I'm going to do in this research. And the method specifically I'm going to use here is computational text analysis. That's the analysis of text using computers, not instead of reading text by human. In the later slide, I'll talk about like what is like I would like to talk about the sort of gist of what is this and why we are doing this kind of methodology in the research. But that's coming a bit later. So IMF and AMRO. IMF is International Monetary Fund that's established right after the end of the World War II in order to stabilize the currency systems all over the world. And they do many things, but one of the things they do is studying the macroeconomy of each country, and then like make a suggestion about these countries. So analyzing and then publish a report including policy proposals to these countries. And IMF report is very, well, IMF itself is known for the neoliberal ideas. Neoliberal ideas is basically like a market-oriented economy and less government intervention and less government spending, that kind of things they advocate. And sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's harmful. And that was really the case, especially during the Asian financial crisis in 1990s. And based on that sort of like programs, there are like a lot of regional similar institutions which analyze country's economy and make a policy proposal. That's one of them is AMRO. AMRO is ASEAN 3 Macroeconomic Research Office, and I'll talk about the history a little bit later. But the research idea here is whether this AMRO is operated by a little bit different ideas compared to IMF. So IMF is basically all about the stability of the macroeconomic economy, country's macroeconomy, and what basically they want to stabilize that. So they don't really care about the development of the economy of the country. However, AMRO is established by ASEAN plus 3. They might be more focusing on the some sort of like development of each country, because like most ASEAN nations, ASEAN is the association of Southeast Asian. Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So these nations developed a lot past like several decades, but still needs more sort of like developed economic development to catch up the developed economies. And for that reason, maybe this AMRO focusing on the other types of ideas, such as the developmental state-oriented type of ideas. The meaning of that is more government intervention to the economy, and so that the government can stimulate the economic growth. That's what it's called, the government developmental state-oriented economic idea. And what kind of ideas can be found in their macroeconomic research? That's the question we are going to address in this specific research. So let's move on to the next slide about the Asian financial crisis and IMF. Asian financial crisis in 1997 is, as I said, I'm kind of surprised that most of you were born after this Asian financial crisis, but you still have the idea of what it was. So it was the currency destabilization in all over the East and Southeast Asia, including the Indonesia and Thai and South Korea. These are the 3 countries which were hit by that crisis most harshly. That was caused by the massive large-scale selling of Thai bahts and other currencies by hedge fund. What they did is basically selling that country's currency to buy dollars. And the reason why they did it was because at that time, all countries had the basically pegged currency exchange. The meaning of that is exchange rate was fixed to dollar. And it stabilized the economy, but when the country's economy develops, that creates a problem because the fixed rate does not reflect the actual strength of the dollar that country's currency against the dollar. So because of that, the hedge fund found some sort of like a imbalance between actual strength and exchange rate. And because of that, they decided to selling that. And because after that massive thing, what happened was the currency reserve. That's the amount of the foreign currency held by the government was sort of like shortened. So each government didn't have enough dollar. And because of that, the expectation was that they might not be able to do the international transactions smoothly anymore. And so these government needed to borrow money from, or borrow dollars from somewhere. And that's where the IMF should intervene. So IMF can lend the money to the country's government, and that's a good thing in general because these countries need to have dollars. But the problem of IMF was they have strong policy ideas about what the government should do in the macroeconomy, and especially it's a neoliberal one. And they basically enforce some sort of the reforms. It's called so-called market-oriented reforms, and that includes these kind of things: achieving fiscal balance, deregularization of the economy, and also the money supply, or restricting the money supplies. So these kind of things IMF want, and that causes a massive problem in many countries, especially the Thai and Indonesia and South Korea. These three countries borrowed the money, a lot of money from IMF, and this kind of reforms created huge problems to these countries because all these countries had economic trouble at that time. So they were in a recession, and these reforms are the things you should really avoid during the recession. But since this was a condition for borrowing money from IMF, they borrowed the money from IMF, the government, or these governments, had to accept these reforms. And that created a massive political unrest in each country, including Indonesia. Probably Indonesia is had the largest political unrest. As you may know, there was a huge riot in 1998, and then May 1998, and then that led to the authoritarian leader, he had to resign after that. He was the president for 30 or more years at that time, but he had to resign, and that was sort of triggered by IMF intervention. Yeah, so that was a problem, and because of that, IMF is kind of hated from these countries, and that's where UMRO comes. UMRO is an international organization that conducts surveillance analysis of the ASEAN plus 3 regional economies. ASEAN plus 3, ASEAN is the 10 Southeast Asian countries. That's the membership of ASEAN, plus 3 countries in East Asia: China, South Korea, and Japan. That's ASEAN plus 3. And what UMRO does after its establishment in 2016 was to conduct a surveillance of each country. What they do is basically send a group of economists, or investigators, to each country, and then meet the relevant people in that country's economy, including the economic ministers, bureaucrats, and also sometimes it includes the union leader and the business association leaders. So after that meeting, they publish a report about each country's economy. And that's done annually. So every year they publish a report about, say, Indonesia or Japan or South Korea, and so on. So that's what they do. And IMF does the same thing. IMF does the country report. So since IMF is a global institution, so they publish a report for all the countries in the world. And that includes Southeast Asian countries. And what I want to do in this research is whether these two reports are similar or different in terms of how they evaluate the economy and how they discuss what kind of proposals they make, or these reports make. And that's done through some sort of quantitative analysis. That's what we do here. The theoretical expectation of this research is something like this. One possibility is two institutions are competing. So as I suggested, these two institutions are created very different idea. IMF is really care about the economic stability, and they believe that the neoliberal type of like market-oriented economies create that kind of stability. So we think that their report reflects that kind of idea really strongly. And AMRO is different. AMRO is established by ASEAN nations, and they care about the development. So because of that, the report might be really sort of like a developmental state oriented. That's the expectation, possible expectation here. And the theoretical background for this expectation is coming from what is called principal agent theory. The meaning of that is the principal, the agent work for principals. That's the idea of principal agent theory. Principal is someone who sort of give up power to the organization. And in this example, principal is the sort of the founding members of these institutions. So for IMF, although like membership is really huge, since it's global and like developed countries tend to have stronger power than the other countries. So they might reflect more sort of like a developed countries' intentions or interests. And on the contrary, AMRO is more about the sort of, they are founded by ASEAN nations. So they might reflect the principles idea, principle, like ASEAN nations idea, and the agent, AMRO, works for that interest. That's one possible expectation. And if that's the case, then these two reports are quite different. Like in the same year, same country's economy, but the reports are different. That's what we might expect. That's the first expectation. And second expectation is kind of like two institutions are complementary. So although these two are different institutions, but IMF is a global institution, has very strong power. And these regional institutions are expected to work together with IMF for greater good. That's the stabilization of the world economy. And because of that, reports might be the similar. That's the expectation. So what kind of ideas are reflected these report, and whether we can detect that through the analysis is the question in this research. The data here is the annual report of macroeconomic surveillance by IMF and AMRO for these 13 countries. These 13 countries are the countries of the members, sort of the members of the AMRO. And the reports are, as I said, created by the group of economists affiliated with these institutions. And it's published annually. We decided not to include after 2020, because after 2020, everything is about COVID-19, and they talk about sort of how to deal with the economic crisis caused by COVID-19, not like about the general policy advice in the normal time. So we decided not to include that. And these reports will be analyzed using what is called a computer content analysis. That's the, what we basically do is the ask computer to read the text and then provide some insight. So what is it? So analyzing text with computers and get insights from unstructured text. Unstructured text is basically means like a normal text. Like when we read books, it's not particularly really structured, like via spreadsheet number data. And it has the it has very strong advantages. That is like you can process huge amount of data, and I use a really big data in my research. Not to this one. This one's kind of smallish, but when I do the like social media text analysis, that's the analysis of say tweets. I use millions of tweets, but I cannot really read all the tweets to use the data as a data. So, but a computer can easily read a lot of text pretty quickly. So processing a large amount of data is the one of the advantage. And another one is the application of machine learning technology. You may have heard of machine learning or deep learning or AI. That's kind of a hot topic in this data science world, past like probably almost 10 years. And once you make computer with these texts, you can apply these kind of machine learning technology pretty easily, and then get really reliable insight about what's going on in these texts. So because of that, computer text analysis is popular. And what can we do through computer text analysis? Something like this. These are the list of the things you can easily do in a computer text analysis. One is the guessing authors. That's a very famous old application of the this kind of technology. Very old, it's like 1960s. What it does is the famous application of this is the Federalist Papers. Federalist paper is the periodical papers circulated around the time when the United States was founded. And at that time, that Federalist paper talked about the idea of the nations, and there are known authors, like 3 authors are known to have contributed to these papers. But some of the articles, some of the articles are not sort of like, basically all the articles are published anonymously, but in the end, the 3 authors, all of them, one of them is the Jefferson, that's the president, and including him, all of them are very famous people. And in the end, after a while, they claimed the authorship of that papers, but there was like 10 or so unknown articles, like because several authors claimed that was my writing. So in the end, it wasn't quite clear who really wrote that text. But using some sort of computer technology, since it's very old one, it's very sort of preliminary infant computer text analysis. But through that, it was possible to identify who was the author of the paper. That's one application. Another fun kind of application is this one. So I put the figure here, and this is a very famous infographic about the easiness of the English used in the State of Union addresses in the United States. State of the Union address is the, in January, US President make a long speech about the state of the union, like what's the state of the country or world and what we should do kind of thing. That's the State of the Union address. And for this State of the Union address, it has like more than 200 years of history. How difficult it is was the question. So this x-axis is the time and the y-axis is the difficulty of the text. There's a method to measure the level of the sophistication of the text, and then they calculate that and then plotted it like this. And as you see, there's like a downward trend. So the presidential speeches tend to be easier and easier. And that's what they found. And during the Trump era, it became even more easier because he used very simple English. And some people think that has some sort of the implication about the US politics, like what's going on in the US politics. It seems that the country's politics in some sort of trouble these days. And one of the things is this kind of like using very easy English is good, but still like when you convey the complicated meanings, you may have to have the complete or sophisticated language, but politicians stopped using that, and that might be a problem. That's the kind of the implication that this is one of the application of the computer content analysis. From there on, it's kind of like more new technologies. One is the understanding the topic of the text. So when humans read the text, it's not difficult to understand what's the topic of the text. But for computers, it was not really easy. But recent development since probably 2010, it's getting easier and easier to detect what's the topic of the text. And that's one thing we can do. Another thing is particularly political science. That is the, when we talk about the, when we talk about politics, we talk about like political left and political right. And the political left and right are reflected upon like some sort of different ideas. And when we read some sort of like a political text, especially the political or political leaders or politicians' speeches, we kind of can understand whether this is about leftist agenda or rightist agenda. But is it possible using computer to get to that kind of like idea of who is left and who is right? And the answer is yes. And it's quite accurate. We can map all the like members of parliament into like one-dimensional scale, and we can tell who is left and who is right through the analysis of speech that we can do with text analysis. And then the last one is really exciting developing field, and that is like a generation of new text. So these days, AIs are really getting smarter and smarter. So by giving some sort of like a few key phrases or keywords, you can generate the entire news articles. And before the US elections, we know that there are a lot of fake news published. And it seems that some of the fake news articles are generated automatically these days using what is called GPT-2 or 3 models. These are like a state-of-the-art text generation machine, and it can actually write the news article. It's kind of amazing. So that's the state-of-the-art. This kind of technology is really popular in political science because we are in big data era. We need to process a lot of data, and a lot of data is actually available in electronic form. I do a lot of text analysis. I do a lot of text analysis using these kind of textual sources, such as parliamentary speeches and SNS messages. I do Twitter analysis of UK politicians and also Japan and Korea tweets. I'm from Japan, and I'm interested in Japanese politics as well. And also you can analyze like legislative bills and also government reports. That's kind of the things we are going to analyze here. So going back to the what we did in this research. What we did in this research is analyzing this country report. And what we specifically used in this analysis one is the what is called a dictionary-based approach. This is a very sort of like preliminary type of the research methodology. What we do is prepare some sort of dictionary about some sort of economic ideas. And in particular, we prepare two sets of dictionaries, neoliberal dictionary and the developmental state dictionary. Two dictionaries we prepared. And then what we did with that dictionary was finding words in this dictionary and how many of them are showing up, or how frequently these words are showing up in a text. And that sounds simple. And actually, the most difficult part is to develop reliable dictionary or find really reliable dictionary. But once you prepare the dictionary, counting words is like very easy for computers, and that's what we asked computer to do. And what we found is as follows. We cannot really find the developmental state ideas in their country report, even if for AMRO data. So it seems that their report superficially really similar. Like this figure indicates the frequency of specific neoliberal ideas, and the distribution is kind of similar, except for a few ideas such as the structural reform or tax reform. But we don't really find the meaningful difference between the UMRO report and IMF report. So it looks very similar. That's the what our analysis find. However, when we focus on some specific idea, the specific idea is the structural reform. When we focusing on the structural reform, it's a little bit different. That's the thing we find in the next analysis. Next analysis is a little bit more sophisticated. What we did is the detection of topic. So we analyzed the text, and what we did is the estimate the topic around the structural reform. I mean, pick up the paragraph using the word structural reform, and then analyze what that paragraph discussed. That's what we did. And there is some sort of like a meaningful differences. For example, UMRO report, when they discuss the structural reform, it talks about the industry. Yeah, as we expect, the UMRO should focus on the development of economy. And because of that, when they discuss structural reform, it's related to the industry rather than the stabilization of the country's economy. That's what we find. And on the contrary, what we find here on the top of the figure is fiscal policy. IMF is about stabilization of the economy, and they really want to have like a controlled fiscal spending by the government, like big fiscal deficit in that country would lead to the currency destabilization, or economic destabilization of the country. So IMF want to avoid that, and because of that, when they talk about structural reform, it's discussed more on the context of fiscal policy, and also it's related to the central bank. Central bank is really related to the monetary policy of the country. So IMF focus more on central bank rather than the industry or economic development. So looking at the context, we can find some differences between UMRO and IMF. So the takeaway of this research was the appearance of the words are not really different, but rationale for structural reform was actually different. And implication of this research, what we would say to the country's government might be don't get confused. So all the reports talk a lot about structural reform, but how they discuss are different. And because of that, probably the actual policy proposals in these reports are different. That's what we would expect from our analysis. All right, so that's the gist of it, like what I do as a research and what kind of researches are possible using the quantitative methodology. Next one is about the our department, including a career opportunity. All right, I'm a bit sort of speaking 30 minutes, I'm a little bit tired. Can I take a like 1 minute break before start the career opportunity part?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay,
that's fine.
Then I'll come back in a minute.
Okay, sure, that's fine.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Aki. Mungkin kalau tadi kalian yang udah dengerin lecture-nya ya, mungkin masih belum ngerti gitu kayak kenapa kok seperti ini dan segala macam. Itu lebih ke arah kalau mungkin kalian sudah masuk di kelasnya dan segala macam, mungkin akan lebih mengerti karena ini kan tadi seperti kalau kalian masuk di kelas. Mungkin ini lebih relevan untuk anak-anak yang saat ini sudah S1 dan akan mencari S2 seperti itu. Oh, saya sampai lupa ngidupin video. Begitu. Tapi nanti kalau misalkan setelah ini akan dijelasin juga untuk career opportunity dan apa aja sih yang ada sebagai apa namanya departmentnya seperti apa. Nah, kalau misalnya ada kalian yang pertanyaan, saya ngeliat udah ada yang masuk pertanyaan-pertanyaannya. Nanti kita akan jawab one by one during Q&A session ya. Are you ready right now?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
pass it back to you.
So now I'm going to talk about the bit about my department, and including the what kind of career support we provide, and also the what is that? Also the actual outcome of the our career support, or like what kind of like performance we made in terms of the student employability. I'm going to start with the 5 Essex facts. It seems that all of them are kind of discussed, so I'm not really going to talk about it right now. Yeah, it's like this Regius Professorship, which we're really proud of, is one of the focus or one of the highlight of the research excellency of our department. So there's a Regius Professorship. That's the one professor in a country in each field. So in our case, it's political science. Only one professor in the entire UK has this Regius Professorship. That's like kind of like the best professor in a country and appointed by the Queen. And right now, the professorship is given to the Professor Christian Gredich. He's like a really huge name in the international relations. We are very strong in the international relations research, and he's the like really sort of like core of our international relations program. And what else? And our research, or no, our teaching is really focused on the sort of research-driven teaching. The meaning of that is like all of us is basically the expert on something, and our research is reflected upon our teaching, and so there is a like good like dynamics of what you can learn from the research. You can learn from the lectures given by professors, or like conversations you have with professors, and that's like really research driven. And we are the like top 3 or number 1 in the country, so like that's a really great opportunity for you to interact with our professors. And lastly, I'm not sure this is a strength or not, but our department is really diverse. Like when you come to our department, you realize that most of them are not British, including me. I'm from Japan, and many of them are from all over the world. Like a lot of people are from the US, and quite many Europeans. And also we have quite sizable number of Asian professors, Korean, Japanese, Taiwanese, Pakistani. Probably I'm missing a few of them, but yeah, we are quite diverse in terms of the people, and we understand the hopefully we understand the people's need about the well, like international students' needs about like what do you guys feel some sort of like difficult about studying abroad. Like I studied in the US, and at that time when I started my study over there, it was quite tough, but you'll like after 1 or 2 years you will get over it and enjoy living these countries, and we can sort of in general understanding what the international students need. So that's kind of the strengths we have. We have a lot of undergraduate degrees, and the 2 highlights of the undergraduate degrees is the bachelor's in politics and the bachelor's politics and international relations. 2 degrees are by far the largest number enrollment in the department. The reason is because it's the most flexible one. Like there are a lot of degrees, but all of them are sort of combined with other department or focusing on specific topics. And the meaning of that is there are a lot of required modules you have to take in order to get the degree. But these 2 modules you can choose quite like from large number of the modules, and even if you don't have good idea of like what is this degree about or what you really want to study after specializing in some sort of like field, you can decide later. That's the strength of that. And there's no limitation for any module taking from these 2-degree students. So you can safely enroll this one. Our student body is quite diverse. As you see, 50% British, 30% European, and 20% all over the world. And we are expecting that all this non-European student enrollment will increase because we are trying hard to get like students from all over the world. So that's our undergraduate students body. Oh, I was missing one slide. So I was talking about this slide. Career opportunities. This is a career support we provide or provided by the university. From our department, you get the career portfolio module. That's the module specifically for employability. This is a full year module, which you can take any year, but usually students take the, it's usually taken by the 3rd year of your study, and that's the last year. And the purpose of this this module is so when you apply for jobs, you need to appeal your strength, and for that, first of all, you need to know what's your strength and what's your weakness, and you need to understand how to present your strength. And then once you understand that, you have to sort of summarize it as the your CV. CV is the your sort of like explanation of you, like who are you, what kind of degree you have, what kind of experience you have, that kind of things. And when you apply for a job, you submit that CV, and the purpose of this module is to develop CV for a year in order to get the in order to create an employable CV. And that's the support we provide. And as a university, we provide this kind of opportunities, internship and the front runners. That's the both sort of like a job experience sort of opportunities. And then these following two, placement year and the study abroad year, is the something comes to the 4th year of your study. Placement year is you can extend 1 year. Probably Christabel can explain better than me, but that is a year when you stay in a school with the minimum amount of tuition so that you improve your employability while looking for a job. That's a placement year, and we provide that kind of year. And also you can go study abroad with a small amount of tuition. So this is a study abroad destinations. The University of Essex has the partnership with quite many universities all over the world. And you can study there a year or 1 term, almost free if it's a year. Like if it's a year, you in this year's number, you just pay like 15% of tuition and then go there and then study that university. That's quite very good deal. Of course, you still have to pay the living cost over there, and some countries are quite expensive. For example, University of Essex has a partnership with the University of Tokyo. If you go there, you will live in Tokyo. That's great, but Tokyo is not really cheap to live. But that's really great opportunity. And also we provide the language for all. If you happen to be interested in the learning 1 more language, then we provide the free language course for a year. That's like a real language course, and so that you can get the language specialty. And also, if you pursue higher degree after a bachelor's degree, then there is a royalty discount for postgraduate study. Employability of our school is not bad, but actually quite good. Politics at Essex ranked 22nd of 79 for careers after 6 months, and many of them are actually professionals after finishing bachelor's degree. And the highest proportion is business, HR, and finance professionals. This is a like professional jobs, and many of them actually getting that kind of jobs. And these following slides are the examples of the really sort of like a strong like people who got a really sort of placed really good job after the after graduating from University of Essex, like someone working in the European Commission, someone working in the Department of International Trade, and also like people is working as a like sort of the data scientist as well. That's how our graduates are doing. So it's that's basically it for my presentation. And the last one is about the this map. This is a rainfall of the UK, and Essex is really dry, like in terms of the rainfall. So maybe you are afraid of the UK weather, but our campus is the driest in the UK. That's it for my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, I stopped share. Yes. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much. I think we do have some Q&As that have been put. Just before we go to Q&A, I think I just want to reiterate what you have explained just now untuk yang study abroad dan placement. Jadi itu kalau biasa, kalau misal kalian pernah dengar yang namanya sandwich program, I think it's more common, it's called sandwich program. So basically, study di UK itu 3 tahun aja untuk S1, 3 years program, and master degree is only 1 year. Nah, untuk anak-anak yang students yang memang maunya masuknya ke bachelor, if you are looking for study abroad, like what Dr. Aki has mentioned, itu biasanya kalian ada kesempatan 2 tahun pertama itu di Essex, tahun ketiga kalian bisa milih. Tadi yang kalau misal dilihat, we have lots of different partners around the world, depending on, of course, what your preference is. Jadi kalian bisa spend your 3rd year itu di mana? Di partner kita, salah satu partner. Kalau placement, kalau misal kalian akhirnya milihnya, saya nggak mau study abroad, then miss, I think I wanna go for placement instead, which is kayak seperti practical training begitu ya. Nah, kalian akan spend your 1 year itu kerja, seperti itu, internship istilahnya. Baru nanti your 4th year, which is your last year, ini balik lagi untuk selesaiin your dissertation, begitu. Oke? Oke, karena kita udah ngelihat timingnya, kayaknya kita a bit overrun, nggak apa-apa, it's okay. If, I'm glad that some of you are still here, even though maybe we are a little bit overrun. Kita akan jawab beberapa pertanyaan. So I think most of the questions, Aki, I think is for you. It's a bit technical. So some of the questions, the first 2 questions,
yes,
if you can answer. Okay, I'm gonna read the first questions. Do you think financial technology or AI at some point will replace lots of manual government system? Is there any report or journal that we can read to justify the connection? That's the first question.
Okay. Later part, I'm not sure where to read that. Like it's really happening right now, so it's difficult to say, difficult to point out what's the actual sort of journals you should look at. But yes, it is replacing human. And one kind of obvious thing is the translation. There's a free translation service called DeepL or DeepL. And that's the translation service between the English to 20 or something languages. And that's really like that's basically replacing human, in my opinion. Like if you, since I'm Japanese, I can write in English, but I'm confident in writing in Japanese. And when I use that service, like typing Japanese and convert it in English, it looks really natural, at least like to the eye of the non-native speaker of English, it's almost perfect English. So that's not really simple manual labor. It's getting close to the sort of professional level. And these kind of professional level service tend to be sort of like, could be replaced by these kind of machines. That's really scary situation right now. And I hope that's not really happening, but we cannot really avoid this to happen. So this is actually like ongoing development. So not only one book explain that kind of things. It's just like you read, say, some sort of like a general sort of journals and magazines like Economist, then you see that kind of articles regularly. And that's like, in order to catch up what's actually going on, then probably the best source is like reading some sort of like internet articles and so on. But yeah, the question to the first, answer to the first question is basically yes, it's kind of happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I'm going to move on to the second questions, which is about tapering. Very interesting. So America currently doing tapering their USD. Do you think this will affect and somehow creates another crisis for Indonesia? In your opinion, with USD tapering, will it affect the usage digital currency? I think the thing about crypto right now, it's very popular.
Okay, it's interesting. So yeah, so it's not really my experts answer. In terms of the cryptocurrency, in the end, I still don't understand why cryptocurrency is that variable. Like right now, no one is using, well, not no one, but a very small number of people are using it for actual transaction. It's just like an asset for investment right now. And we don't have really sort of like a realistic solution for using cryptocurrencies for actual digital transaction. Like when you use credit card, the transaction is almost immediate. And that kind of like on-timeness of the transaction is not happening in cryptocurrency. So I don't think crypto is like can easily replace the actual government issues currency. And what the US want to do is, I don't know, I don't think they really have an intention to screw any country's economy, but since they are strong, then I would say anything can happen. But what I could say is Indonesian economy is much stronger than at that time. Like in 90s, it was quite fragile, and it was like a sort of transition period from the under the very sort of like a strong influence of the US economy to sort of like an independent economy. So it's not so easy to sort of like screw up Indonesian economy like in 1990s. It's really possible anymore. That's what I think.
Thank you. Moving on to the third questions, I think Aki has already covered this, what career should be positioned in the real society for graduation of political science. So you see the data that just now you saw, there are lots of different fields that students actually go to, ranges, so not necessarily, kalau misal kalian nggak tertarik banget gitu ya untuk masuk politics atau mungkin maunya ke business atau marketing, like what we saw just now, ada art industry juga, pretty versatile in that sense. Mungkin yang terakhir, so I'm gonna move on to the last one. What's the difference between BA politics and politics of international, or BA and BSc? What's the difference?
Okay, I had an answer for that a while ago, and I kind of forgot about it. But basically, it's both of them a bachelor's degree, but BSc is more research focused, and because of that, BSc requires more sort of like there's a more required modules, and in my understanding, if you do the BSc, you have to write a capstone thesis when you graduate. Like for BA students, you have an opportunity, it's optional. You can write thesis, but you can graduate without writing thesis. But BSc, you have to write a thesis before you graduate. That's my, yeah, I think that's the answer.
Okay, so what about in terms of the modules? I heard that BA would have more theory and BSc would have more like, you know, statistic and data.
Yeah, so I don't remember exactly what's the required modules, but both degrees have some required modules, and the BA focusing on the like actual like political science. So it's not theory, but in both of them, you have to establish your foundation about what is politics. Like you have to like good understanding of what is politics and how it works and how it's approached kind of things. And that's common to all the students, both for BA and BSc. And yeah, you're right. Like for BSc, you need the some sort of the training for the quantitative analysis because we focus on that kind of research. Yeah, but in the end, it's not that advanced level. Like it's really sort of like a starting of the your quantitative research. And if you want to be professionals these days, it's quite likely that you have to have some sort of the literacy in statistics. So it's not bad to have that kind of experience.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, I hope it answers all your questions. Kita udah overrun, saudara-saudara. Cuman kalau misal kalian masih ada mau pertanyaan, I think we can stay for another 5 to 10 minutes if you have more questions. Yep, Miss Lani, do you think we have more times? Kalau misal ada yang mau nanya,
Another 5 minutes should be okay.
Another 5 minutes ya, kalau ada yang mau tanya ya. Kalau misal nggak ada, nggak apa-apa. I think AECC, so you guys can actually book appointment with AECC as well. If you don't have questions today, atau mungkin ada pertanyaan, cuman kalian masih nggak tahu nih mau nanya apa, it's okay, you book appointment. Nanti kalian bisa ngobrol dengan konsulnya AECC, dan kalau misal kalian tertarik untuk ngobrol dengan saya lagi, karena saya mungkin bisa lebih kayak masih masukan, kayak tentang Essex dan segala macam, definitely you can schedule a one-to-one session with me. Yeah. Oh, okay, I've got one question. Very interesting webinar. I think maksudnya, do we get a certificate? Kita nggak ada sertifikat untuk hari ini karena kita ini memang lebih ke casual kind of webinar. Beberapa taster talk dan segala macam kita memang kasihnya itu widely used ya. Kalian bisa ngeliat lagi di YouTube yang tadi seperti ada yang tanya di atas. Memang ini bukan kelas banget yang formal ya istilahnya, karena ini hanya 1 jam dan juga di cover beberapa orang. Memang kita nggak ada sertifikat, cuman kalau kalian mau mengulang lagi, mendengarkan lagi, definitely bisa ngeliat YouTube-nya juga. Aki, do you think we can get the PDF file so that I can circulate to the people, the attendance today as well?
No, sure, no problem.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Ya, jadi saya after this, kalau misal kalian pastinya sudah ada email address dan juga kontak di AECC, saya akan pas Dr. Aki punya slides pakai PDF file supaya nanti kalian bisa refer lagi juga untuk take away gitu.
Oke, kalau misalnya memang kita sudah tidak ada pertanyaan lebih lanjut, mungkin saya hanya ingin ingatkan teman-teman, kalau ingin meneruskan pendidikan Anda di Department of Government di University of Essex, tentu caranya mudah sekali. Seperti Adel tadi udah sebutkan, tinggal kontak AECC Global dan konselor kami akan bantu untuk mengumpulkan dokumen yang diperlukan untuk apply ke program ini. Kemudian konselor kami juga akan bantu Anda untuk memasukkan application-nya ke University of Essex, dan juga membantu menerima letter of offer-nya tentunya. Kami juga akan memberikan arahan kepada para student untuk bagaimana untuk accept the letter of offer, dan kami juga akan buatkan student visa dan membantu carikan akomodasi yang dekat di Colchester. Oke. Dan semua service yang kami berikan tentunya free of charge. Bahkan aecc Global juga akan bantu student untuk akan mensupport student dengan memberikan international, mengcover sebagian dari international health surcharge-nya sebesar 6 juta rupiah. Oke, kalau misalnya tidak ada lagi yang ingin disampaikan, saya ingin mengucapkan banyak terima kasih kepada Dr. Aki, juga buat Christabel dan Angel yang sudah hadir pada sore hari ini.
Angel keputus Bu, itunya internetnya.
Yeah,
So she cannot be on line right now, but it's okay.
that's okay. And yeah, kita akan bertemu lagi tentunya di live session berikutnya di minggu depan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, AECC team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aki. Thank you, everyone who has joined us today.
That's the thing about life. It can be unpredictable, but your dreams need not be. How far would you go to make your dreams come true? How close are you to reaching those goals set by you? While others focus on a new normal, you focus on a new beginning. Look around for what inspires you. Build your narrative. After all, it's your story to tell. Take a chance. Take a leap. Begin your study abroad journey with us.
Looking for the right course for you? Welcome to AECC Global's Course Search, your one-stop platform for all your international education needs. Browse through millions of free, valuable study abroad resources to pursue your international study dream. To begin your search, type in your preferred course in the search bar. Filter by sub-course category, level of study, destination preference, tuition fees, duration, and post-study work visa. With a destination drop-down, you can search for the preferred destinations of your choice. You can also filter down courses by top-ranked universities in your preferred destination and their rankings. Browse through various career choices, and you can also browse through free student resources like articles on tips to study abroad, the latest news, etc. We are here to support you with every step of your study abroad journey. To explore your course options, visit search.aecc.global.com.